Imagine a world without writing. Nothing is permanent. No information survives. Not a name, not a date, not a trace. Humans speak, but everything they say disappears. For thousands of years, human history lived under the shadow of silence and oblivion. People could only exist in the present moment. The past stretched only as far as memory allowed. The future was uncertainty. They gathered around fires. They told stories. They made decisions. They made promises. But words were fragile. They did not last. Like a breath leaving the mouth, they vanished the moment they were spoken. When the fire died, when the smoke faded, everything disappeared with it. Communication was only possible in presence, face to face, sharing the same space. But when mountains, rivers, or simply time stood in between, words broke, bonds dissolved, and knowledge was lost. Humans could not speak to those far away, nor to those who had yet to be born. They could not reach a distant tribe, a future grandchild, or another land. And memory was unreliable. It changed with time. It bent under fear. It faded with exhaustion. The same story, told again and again, shifted, changed, became something else. Humans could speak. They could think. They could imagine. But they could not carry their words beyond their own lifetime. There were words, but no permanence. And that absence began to be felt. Humans no longer wanted their experiences to end with their lives. What they saw, what they learned, they did not want it to vanish. They wanted to say, "I was here." They wanted to leave something behind. And that need led them, for the first time, to search for a surface. At first, they left handprints on cave walls, marks made with charcoal, with pigments, with stone. Then they turned to something more lasting, stone, because stone resisted time. And for the first time, words were no longer entrusted to the wind, but to matter. The first records were carved into rock and clay tablets. Hammers and chisels became the first writing tools in history. Writing had been born, but at a cost. To write was to struggle against stone. It was slow, it was laborious, and it did not forgive mistakes. A single wrong mark could destroy days of work. And information was heavy. To carry a thought, a law, or an order to another city required dozens of people carrying tablets. Information was bound to its place. It could not move. It could not spread. But the human mind could. Thoughts moved. They traveled. But the tools that carried them did not. Humans needed something else, something lighter, faster, more fluid, something that could move with thought itself. That answer emerged in Egypt, on the fertile banks of the Nile. The Nile did not only feed the land, it fed ideas. Instead of carving stone, humans turned to nature, and discovered the reed, a simple plant growing along marshy banks that became one of the first truly practical writing instruments in history. Today, it may seem primitive, but in its time, it was revolutionary, because turning a reed into a writing instrument was not random. It required precision, patience, skill. An Egyptian craftsman would carefully select the stalks. Not too hard, not too soft. The hard ones broke. The soft ones could not hold ink. Then they were left to dry under the sun, until every trace of moisture was gone. That waiting time defined the quality of the instrument. Once ready, the reed became firm, yet workable. Its tip was cut at an angle, not just to sharpen it, but to create a tiny reservoir for ink and a narrow channel to guide it. A small slit controlled the flow, preventing excess, using gravity, using capillary action. That detail changed everything. This was not just a tool. For the first time, thought could flow without interruption. The principles behind modern fountain pens begin here. But the tool alone was not enough. Ink mattered. Early masters mixed soot with plant resins and water, creating a dark, lasting ink, an ink that would not fade. And writing was no longer just a mark. It became knowledge. The reed pen, together with papyrus, changed everything. Writing became faster, lighter, portable. A single scroll could hold what once required thousands of clay tablets. And for the first time, ideas could travel. Laws, accounts, recipes, thoughts. Empires were built by power, but sustained by recorded knowledge. As time passed, civilizations changed, and so did writing surfaces. Papyrus gave way to parchment, stronger but more delicate. Reed pens were no longer enough. What was needed was not rigidity, but flexibility. And so came the quill. For centuries, goose, swan, and crow feathers shaped the written world. They were not just tools. They were symbols of elegance, of expression, of art. Turning a feather into a pen was a careful craft. Not every feather would do. Scribes preferred those from the left wing, their natural curve better suited for right-handed writing. They were heated, cleaned, hardened, then shaped with precision. A fine slit at the tip determined the character of the writing. Unlike the reed, the quill was flexible. It could produce bold strokes or lines almost invisible. And so, calligraphy was born. Writing was no longer just information. It became expression. But it was not perfect. It wore down quickly. It required constant reshaping. And the ink was still outside. Dip, write, repeat, breaking the flow of thought. And accidents were inevitable. For centuries, humans dreamed of the same thing, a tool that carried its own ink. That did not stop. That did not fail. By the 19th century, the world had changed. Steam, steel, industry. Writing had to change with it. It was no longer just for scribes. Factories, schools, offices demanded speed. Quills were no longer enough. Metal nibs appeared. Stronger, more durable, more efficient. But the problem remained. The ink was still outside. Until one moment changed everything. According to legend, Louis Waterman was about to finalize the most important contract of his life when his pen leaked. The document was ruined. A small failure, but a larger truth. Writing should not be fragile. That realization changed everything. Engineers began to control ink inside the pen itself, balancing air pressure, managing flow. And so, the fountain pen was born. For the first time, writing flowed. Smooth, continuous, elegant. It became not only a necessity, but a pleasure, and a symbol of status. But still, not perfect, too delicate, too sensitive. Humans wanted more, and in the 20th century, they found it. Laszlo Bíró saw something others did not. Printing ink dried quickly. Too quickly for traditional pens. But that was the opportunity. His solution was simple. A tiny metal ball at the tip. As it rolled, it picked up ink and transferred it to paper. No leaks, no excess, no interruptions. The ballpoint pen was born. It worked anywhere, unaffected by pressure, by altitude. That is why pilots adopted it. And during war, it spread rapidly. After the war, it reached everyone. Cheap, durable, reliable. And for the first time in history, writing belonged to everyone. It was democratized. And today, that simple pen in your hand is the result of thousands of years of searching. From cave walls and to the Nile, from feathers to precision mechanics. It is not just an object. It is a story. The story of a human being who refused to disappear, who wanted to leave a trace, to resist time. The pen is the shape that struggle took, because the pen is not just for writing. It exists so we are not forgotten.